Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome, investors. We have an extra special edition of the Roundtable up for you to hear today. Lots of people, lots of familiar names in the audience. Good to see you all. My name is Mark Robertson. I am founder and managing partner of Manifest Investing and a volunteer with the Mid-Michigan chapter. And I'm joined here by my fellow Red Rabbit chasing buddy, Ken Kavula. Good evening, Ken.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to have you with us. This list is always a kind of an interesting thing for us to do, and we've been doing it for quite a while. So without much further ado, because we do have a couple of companies that we want to present to you, we're not going to be presenting material for you to do with an investment, but just kind of as a heads up as what's on the list and give you an idea of what might be some good ideas for you to use as you're looking for companies for possible investment. So Mark, let's get her started. We do have a disclaimer, I think, don't we?
Yeah, no, the disclaimer is the performance wasn't very good this year. You're going to see that in a few minutes. That's foreshadowing. And our theme is going to be basically rolling back to what we did a few years ago. And so we're going to roll back the gantry and try to launch this thing. All right. Quick standard disclaimer, no investment recommendation is intended. The stuff that we're doing here is for illustration and demonstration purposes only. Basically, one of the core principles that we believe is that you should have a blend of small, medium, and large companies in your portfolio. We classify the smaller companies as the faster growing companies, and we think you should have a suitable amount in those small and medium-sized companies to balance off your core holdings. If you have any questions or follow-up issues, you can send an email to either markr@manifestinvesting.com or kkavula1@comcast.net. If you'd like copies of the slides are a bit busy, so you may want to ask for a copy of them. They will also be posted under the session notes at Manifest Investing. So, Ken, if you're ready to roll, we can do that.
I'm absolutely ready, Mark, and I'll make that point one more time. We're talking about small companies, and in our definition, coming directly from Better Investing, our definition of small companies are companies that we think are going to grow their sales at about 12% or more in the coming year and in the coming 5 years.
So we nicknamed those critters Red Rabbits in honor of their speed and agility. And it's something we've been doing on Halloween for many years. And we didn't get together last night because we were out trick-or-treating. But here is the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the results from last year. And then we'll go through and talk about our companies. Any Q&A will probably have to follow the traditional roundtable, would be my guess. All right. Here's a quick reminder that we think that you can find up, straight, and parallel companies amongst the smaller, faster-growing companies. And we've done a pretty good job over the years, but 2023 will go down as an exception. At least we hope it's an exception, Ken, where we did underperform the total stock market, as you can see by that blue bar. And in fact, although we led it for almost the entire year, we did actually sink below the Russell 2000 growth ETF. So, Ken, we're bruised and battered and pressing on.
It's been a terrible year for the Russell 2000 as well, Mark. It's found itself lagging at various times the S&P by as much as 15 percentage points. So it's nice to end that particular year and start a brand new one and start everything fresh again.
Yeah, this is a pretty good illustration of how bad it's been. That upper graph on the upper left is literally looking back at 2 years. The Russell 2000 index that Ken was just talking about hit an all-time high back in November 2021, and it hasn't been anywhere near that since then. And then the much longer-term chart, obviously those last 2 years are just that area on the far right-hand side. It has driven us to drink a little bit. Adult beverages optional. All right, we'll keep moving on. here specifically is what those results look like over time. And this is something that basically, I think it was you, Ken. Did you approach me about doing this back around the turn of the century?
I discovered the list in Forbes a long while ago. Back, it might have even been before 2006, and I thought it was a great idea to take that list, and on various years, Forbes list was either 100 or 200 companies, and to find all the tickers for all the companies and then put them into manifest dashboards and take a look at them and get some great ideas out of them. And somewhere in the middle of the time, as Forbes decided they weren't going to publish this anymore, my suggestion to Mark and his suggestion to me, I think it was kind of simultaneous, Mark, we both
Mm-hmm.
decided it would be a good idea for us to continue that list, maybe in a shorter list, and maybe see if we could beat the market at the same time. So that was what we set off to do. When Forbes discontinued the list in 2014, we continued to do our own list in 2015 and beyond then.
And we've done pretty well. You can see that the combined two efforts, 18 years with 13 of them beating the market. Now that minus 15 on the far right-hand side is ugly. And that's our result for this year. But again, for that entire span, the average, with even with some of the noise and chaos that was in the previous Forbes list, and we were rolling after 7 years. In fact, we'll take a closer look here. Come Halloween 2021, we basically described our efforts as seventh heaven, a seven Pete, and we were soaring. We were talking about beating Bill Miller, and then 2022 humbled us. And then we must not have been humbled enough, Ken, because 2023 was kind of a repeat of the bad kind.
Market reached right out and slapped us in the face. Okay.
the mark the market is a great humiliator, there's no doubt, but we still are 7 for 9 in the average return over that period. And again, I would say, like Ken was saying, we basically started looking at the universe of small companies, defining them that way, and looking at them through the eyes of the modern investment club movement as championed by George Nicholson. And the result for that has been about a 3% advantage. When it used to be 6, but we're down to 3 for that 9-year period.
I do take heart, Mark, that when you have just a few points in the data field, that number can move pretty quickly again. So if we can wallop that list in 2024, we have a chance of pushing that number back into the 15-16 area pretty easily.
We will keep hoping. All right, here are the 12 culprits last year. And you can see that Technoglass was our top selection, and a couple of those regional banks came in towards the bottom. InMode got in trouble with the recent trouble in the Mid-East, but from top to bottom, this is by far the kind of the worst distribution we've seen over the years. And I did want to point out that we kicked out Boot Barn at the last minute last year, Ken, and that would have come in at 22.4. So,
oh my goodness,
compounding our decisions. But
Mark, do you own any of these companies on this list?
I do own some Yeti. Let's see. I keep talking about buying Portillo's, and I don't think any of the other ones. No. How about you?
I own the two at the top of the list, Technoglass and Yeti. I also own Fox Factory, and I also own InMode way down near the bottom. InMode was sailing up in the green until the Israeli-Hamas war began.
Right.
InMode is an Israeli company headquartered in Tel Aviv, and that war just cut that stock price right off at the knees. So it's not looking real good at the moment. I think we have some hope for it, though, going forward.
I have featured it recently in a couple places, and I think I did buy some InMode fairly recently. All right, here's our quick moment of silence, just to remember to check our emotions at the door, because this stuff can make you pretty emotional. And this is just the ghost of Cantel Medical rising up to haunt us. After 3 spectacularly bad years, we left it off the list when we should have put it on the list. and it would have actually come in first that year. So that's just our reminder to, don't get too depressed about the past track record. Look at how the company is positioned going forward. And I think we have to acknowledge that 1 year is just shorter than we're used to. It's probably a subject we'll cover in great detail during a future bull session or even a roundtable. All right, here's just a summary of the stuff that we do. Again, we think you can find up, straight, and parallel, even in small companies. We're looking for companies with double-digit growth rates. We'd like to see double-digit returns. You can see some of the revenue guidelines, although we're flexible on that. We don't want them to be too small. We've got everything in there. Forbes used to leave out the asset-based businesses, but we don't. And that's pretty much what we do. And I do want to note that we're kind of going to try to roll back, emphasize quality even more, as Ken and I have done this year. And we probably will not talk about it every week at bull sessions, maybe go to a monthly, because Ken thinks we're jinxing ourselves with the frequent coverage.
I will say, Mark, that it was a revolution when I realized 20, 25 years ago when I first got involved with better investing and realized that while we kept talking about putting small companies in our portfolios, many of the clubs I was involved with wasn't doing it. And they weren't doing it because they didn't think you could find high quality small companies. And I went into the idea of looking for small companies that I couldn't see the difference between what they were looking like on an SSG and what the large companies were looking at. And I developed the sentence that expect as much from your small companies as you expect from your large, and then went looking for them and was able to find them. So I'm hoping that we have a group of those, and at least some of them are going to act consistently and act really well behaved and give us some profit going into the next year.
Yeah, so we'll throw a little salt over our shoulders again, and we're going to do one big rollback. We got a little bit cute, and it's probably my fault as much as any. I actually brought up, we used to always do approximately 20 companies, and then I brought up the rule of 5 one day, and then I remember Jason Ramage back in the old days talking about his approach to the rule of 5 is really quite simple. You just don't buy the one that underperforms. And so we left off 4 companies, and then we got really crazy and went down to 12 companies last year, and may have cost us a little bit. So we're going to probably go back to the volume. All right. Quick reminders of some of our favorite sources of ideas. These are the places, the community. All of you guys out there have been sending us ideas. We do screening at Better Investing and Manifest Investing and Y Charts and Morningstar. We like the lists at the Forbes and Fortune. Ken, what's your favorite of them amongst the Better Investing screens?
Oh, amongst the Better Investing screens, I really like the small company predefined screen, and the brand new A-list stock screen I'm finding fascinating right now. It's a much larger set of stocks. They still give me the small, medium, and large classifications, but they're stocks that for better or worse, the people that are putting the list together have decided they might be in the buy zone, and they're giving me some. It's a great list to give to maybe people that are past the beginner stage, but starting to really wonder where they can find a nice list of fairly safe stocks, fairly interesting stocks to invest in. I really like that list. And then of course I always like the Forbes list. After 3 or 4 years absence, Forbes came back with its list of best small companies, but they changed their publishing date from the end of October around Halloween. They changed it to the end of November around Thanksgiving. So that new Forbes list will be labeled 2024, and you should look for it on their website, Forbes.com. Look for it on their website near the end of November sometime. There is a list there right now, and it's labeled 2023, but that's the one that came out last November.
Yeah, we did take a look at it, and there were a number of companies that repeated. But again, these are our favorite sources, including some of the best actively managed small company mutual funds, and the Hoover's Handbook also came into play. All right, so without further ado, here's the list of 20 companies. We're going to keep the company identities a secret. We are going to ask you if you want to speculate a little bit with number 20 when we get there, but this is what they add up to. We're basically looking at a collection of companies that averages approximately a 16% growth rate. We tried to keep everything in double digits, upper teens for the return forecasts. The quality is actually closer to 90. We had drifted down closer to 75 or 80 for the average. And then that last column on the right, this is something we've talked about during our bull sessions a little bit, but these are companies, we're going all the way back to the inception date or the IPO date for these companies and looking at their annualized total return over time. And this basically shows you the engine for performance and why we do this in the first place. Notice the 19% and the 9%, that's 9 percentage points of relative return from these companies. So they are a powerhouse of potential. They also come back and bite you, as we've demonstrated here over the last couple of years. But without any further ado, Ken, are you ready?
Well, and Mark, I want to focus people on that column right in the middle of your screen also, that growth forecast, because that's what makes these companies fit this category of this sales growth of greater than 12%. And you notice we've bent that just a little bit for one or two of the companies, but essentially we're looking for double-digit sales growth. And when you can find it in a consistent grower, or when occasionally you can throw in a company that looks like it's just broken through into profitability and it has a skyrocket kind of a tendency to be moving in the right direction, you just can't pass those kind of growth things up. Don't have to have very many winners to make the whole portfolio behave.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to have to go into hyperspeed drive here, Ken. These are in no particular order. I actually did it randomly, but here is the first one. This one I didn't think was going to make it. The company name is Moncler. I don't believe it's in the Better Investing data set. The ticker is MONRY, and they make apparel. And they hang out with Pharrell Williams, which is one of the reasons it caught my attention. You may recall his song Happy. I think that was a Grammy-winning song. Notice that the sales are in pretty good shape, mid-teens growth rate there. The earnings have been pretty good. The price has stagnated a tiny bit. Just an interesting company. I like it because some of the luxury companies are doing fairly well. It's hard to explain economically, but they are. And also, this is a company that's headquartered out of Europe, headquartered in Milan, Italy. And one of the things I found fascinating, Ken, here is there's a windbreaker there for sale for $2,000, and there's a hoodie for $2,200. And you can actually get these at our Somerset collection. It's not a mall; it's a collection in Troy, Michigan. And so, anyhow, what you're going to say, Ken?
Time for the next slide.
the slide down there in the lower right, though, I've never seen a place to buy shoes like that, and I'm just a kid from the boondocks. So there you go. Number 2.
This is MedPace Holdings. MedPace helps companies go through stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 clinical studies. They provide all kinds of assistance to the companies in moving through that federal process. And then they also provide expertise in continuing to help the company after they get the full approval, bring the drug or the medical device or whatever it is to market. You can see the upstate and parallel nature of the company. I do own this stock in a club that I belong to. The Mid-Michigan Model Club owns this stock. And I think it's an extremely interesting example of the upstraight and parallel characteristics that one of these smaller companies can really have. If I were doing this SSG, I'd probably strike the 2 oldest years, 2015 and 2016. I'd probably get those trend lines to match the data, and then I'd be off and running.
Okay. Here's the next one. It's a repeat, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Green Brick Partners is a residential construction home builder headquartered in Dallas. The key point here is they do good work. They're excellently managed, and they are in some of the best spots. This is a community favorite. So Dallas, Atlanta, the Treasure Coast in Florida, and Denver, all pretty good spots to be building a house. It will be a bumpy ride. These type of companies are always bumpy, but pretty good up, straight, and parallel characteristics there on the right. And you can see that the price has actually come back to a point where it could be considered for accumulation. Next.
I'm going to be talking about this stock a little bit more later on in the roundtable tonight, but this is Shockwave Medical, and they do lithotripsy. There we go. And lithotripsy is using sound waves to crack calcium and to make calcium so that it can be manipulated inside of blood vessels. They've already been doing this for about 20 years with kidney stones, and they've developed different tools now where they can do it inside of blood vessels. There's a wonderful, wonderful presentation on their website if the technology interests you. And this one we've decided to put in where we got kind of tantalized by early stage investing with some of the clubs that do this quite regularly. And this is a great example of what early stage investing looks like. You're looking for a company that has not been profitable and now suddenly is profitable. Obviously, there's only two ways for it to go in the next couple of quarters. It will either continue to grow or it will move back towards non-profitability. We're banking on the concept that it probably will continue to grow. And these particular kinds of early stage investments can be very, very lucrative.
Absolutely. All right. The next company is basically a management consultant firm that specializes in software. They're active in all across American industry. They're not concentrated in any one area. Globant, the ticker symbol is GLOB, not to be confused with Globus that Cy will be presenting later. But again, up, straight, and parallel, a little bit of a flat spot in the long-term price, probably some global economic conditions coming to play there. But when you see earnings on the uptake and price on the down, it can suggest opportunity. So again, this is a consulting firm specializing in software. And Ken, I put this image here because this reminded me a lot of your Simulations Plus, the way they talk about this company and this opportunity. And yes, they do a lot of stuff with AI. Next.
This is XL Service Holdings, EXL, and the description of the company is kind of difficult to get your arms around. You can read it up there at the top of the slide, but essentially this company helps other companies make whatever they're doing more efficient, and it helps look at what the company's expertises are. It helps them pull them together, and then using AI platforms helps them become more efficient and drives them to new markets. The solutions they claim are very scalable, which means that once they find a solution, it can be used by a number of different sources that have different types of business models. They have a lot of the world's leading companies as clients. And again, I would urge you to go to the website of any of these companies and look at the investor presentation that usually is there. You can get a great idea not only of what the company does, but how it plans to grow and how it has grown in the future. You also get a really great idea of what its TAM is. That's the total addressable market. And you'll also see the acronym SAM, which means it's serviceable addressable market. So total addressable is what might be what they're trying to reach, and serviceable might be what they can reach at the moment with their present capabilities. This Excel service, again, you can see the characteristics that we're looking for, this up, straight, and parallel concept, this high quality concept, and we hope, again, that growth will continue consistently.
Yep, I think Cy and Kevin are both going to be talking about Tam and Sam a little bit. All right. The next company is Nova. This is April 2023 roundtable selection by me, so you can go back and review that if you'd like. But basically, they're in the business of helping people make chips. And again, it's a pretty good example of up, straight, and parallel for a company this size. They are very highly regarded in the industry. They work with a lot of the people, a lot of those household names that you see in that graphic on the lower right. The type of stuff that they make, again, this is very sensitive, very high quality, very tight specification type work, and they're good at it. And then I think this statement right here gives you a feel for how leveraged this company is in its market. They basically work for a lot of the players, and this is perhaps an example of a company that you basically win no matter who wins amongst the major chip competitors in their daily wars. All right, next. Oh, this is a quick one.
Technoglass. And we've talked about Technoglass a number of times. I see a question about Technoglass in our questions panel, and the questioner is asking about the article that she read about Technoglass having some ties to the Colombian drug cartel. I want to let you know that that's a 2021 article written by a notorious short seller, and I would ask if it's possible for you to find any corroborating evidence that would say the same things as that article said. It seems that that article came out in 2021. The stock took a little bit of a tumble based on the article, and then recovered because nobody could corroborate the information. Technoglass has since moved its headquarters to the United States. They do 95% plus of their business in the US, and they make all kinds of high quality glass, glass that can filter the sun, glass that can serve as an insulator, glass that's hurricane proof, and they're moving quite heavily into residential glass to make up for the fact that the growth in commercial buildings is slowing just a bit in a lot of the major cities. So they're going to be moving into residential glass and putting some of these specialized glasses into doors and windows that can go into your own residence. Again, notice that up, straight, and parallel tendency. I love to see that blue line approaching that green line, because what that means is that the expenses are shrinking for this particular company. When the earnings are growing faster than the sales, then the company is becoming more efficient. That, of course, they won't join to each other. All companies have expenses, but when you see it happening like you do in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years for Technoglass, that's a really good sign that they're really focused on efficiency.
Good stuff. All right, here's a repeat also, Yeti, no stranger to many of the people here. Again, they basically build those containers that keep things hot or keep things cold. And pretty good track record so far. No big surprises on, again, that configuration where there's a lot of companies in this realm. The prices have been declining at a time when the earnings are either flat or up, and that's a pretty good formation for a potential opportunity.
Here's Sapiens International, and I can put down what Sapiens does in just one sentence. They're software for the insurance agency, and when you talk to people that work in the insurance agency, they're very familiar with Sapiens. It's a very forward-looking company, and it's powering an awful lot of what insurance people have to do to run the back rooms and the front rooms of their companies. You can see that it's worldwide. It's all over the world, and it's really pushing the envelope as far as providing this very specialized kind of software. We are getting a comment, Mark, that I made a mistake on my Excelis slide. The ticker should be EXLS.
Oh,
So we'll
okay.
fix that. We'll fix that before we put that out for folks
Okay,
to look at. It looks like I forgot an S in it. Okay.
no problem. All right, another company that we're all familiar with, Western Alliance Bancorp. And for those of you wondering, I do still hold my shares of Western Alliance Bancorp.
As do I.
This is a bank that got caught in all of the trouble back in March. The stock price went from $60 or $70 a share down to $6 or $7 in one morning, and then repeated that a couple months later. The interesting thing about this company is it's well managed. It's not a California bank, even though they do have some operations in California. They're basically out of Phoenix/Las Vegas, with the majority of their business on that side of the mountains and desert. But one of the interesting things is all through the trailing year, they were talking about their deposits. This is a graph of total deposits at the bank, and they kept talking about, well, our deposits are recovering. And the people would be on the tube, basically, or in the news, saying that wasn't happening, but it was. So basically, they have stabilized, and no one knows what tomorrow will hold. But this price excursion was very unusual, and we continue to look for a recovery from this particular bank.
This is Monolithic Power Systems. It's familiar to many of you. It was one of the most widely chosen stocks in the Mid-Michigan stock contest. They're active all over the world. You can see where they do their business by the map down there at the bottom of the slide. Again, look at that up, straight, and parallel tendency of this relatively small company. And what they're looking to do are to make exactly what the title says. They're looking to make power systems for all kinds of applications. And folks, they're active in so many different kinds of applications, from automotive to consumer applications to things that you would expect, cloud computing, AI, telecom infrastructure. And they're looking for small power structures that they can be help the power usage and also the speed of whatever the task happens to be. Again, I would direct you to the web page on their site and tell you to take a look at all the different things they do and how they think they're going to grow their business. We're getting a question about where the estimates are going to be coming from for the numbers that we're reporting, the numbers that Mark had in the opening slide to this, and we're using analyst estimates coming from Y charts. So we do have a basis for our numbers. We're not going to claim that they're correct all the time, but we are going to claim that this is based in the opinions of a large group of analysts that contribute to Y charts.
Okay. Winding down towards the end here, here's another repeat selection. This one has been kind of frustrating. Maybe it's today's Cantel Medical, Ken. We did decide to stick with it. Again, the patterns are actually pretty good on the right-hand side of the screen. This is an interesting company with an interesting service, basically diagnosing cardiovascular stuff either at your desk or your kitchen table in a matter of a few minutes. You've probably seen commercials on similar type products. We do think it's a fascinating play. The analysts agree. So does Morningstar. They have no debt. They have a bunch of cash. And this one has an elevated return forecast. And they've been almost as disappointing as Cantel Medical over the last couple of years. So maybe this is our chance to shine here. All right, we got a couple more to go, Ken, and then we can wrap up.
Okay, this is Expel, and they make coatings, all kinds of coatings. It might be coatings that protect paint layers. They might be coatings that give protection against cold or heat. All different types of coatings, from automotive coatings to home and office window films, to different types of spray-on coatings even. And again, it's chosen for the characteristics of the consistency of its sales and earnings. And then they're also chosen for what we feel are superior potential returns going forward. We like this one an awful lot because it seems to be trading right now at the very bottom of its 52-week range. You see that little red tick there on the graph, and we have found success in looking for companies that are on sale. And essentially right now, this particular company, Expel, is on sale.
Okay. Quick look at this company, Napco Security Technologies. This is just a company that makes all the devices, the telemetry, and they're concentrating on wireless and replacing existing security systems. Very nice trends on the right. You can see that they've been fairly well established, very conservatively managed, and all of their trends are up straight and parallel, including the price. Interesting field of opportunity is in the security of our educational institutions. And they make all of the products, all of the stuff, and an interesting, relatively small company and a little bit more of a vanilla type, growth type situation. Interesting study.
InMode, we've talked about InMode at the roundtable a number of different times. It's basically cosmetic surgery using non-invasive types of tools. You can see the picture up there that shows the before and after. We think InMode is a great play to go along with the weight loss possibilities that are presented by the Novo Nordisk and the Lilly drugs that are helping people lose weight. When you lose weight, you end up with some saggy skin occasionally, and InMode is just going to be the perfect kind of tool to help with that saggy skin. Again, we mentioned that InMode is an Israeli company, and it is severely depressed right now with price. So we're looking for not only it to grow again on the trajectory that it was growing, but to make up the price back to somewhere near where it was trading before the Israeli-Hamas war began. Again, they do almost all of their business outside of Israel. They only do 1% of their business in Israel, but they do some manufacturing in Israel. And I know that they have manufacturing sites elsewhere in the world. You might think of it the same way you think about EPAM if you owned EPAM systems when the war in the Ukraine began. EPAM was really hit very hard with price and has since done a nice job of recovering as they've moved their company and their products and their personnel to places where the war is not affecting them.
Okay. Another company that we'll just try to hash out these last few here in a minute or so. Lantheus Holdings, LNTH. It's not a new company. It's a company that makes the imaging agents for when you go in for CAT scans or MRIs, that type of thing, that enhance the quality of those tests. And interesting company, fairly well established. Again, one of our more vanilla plays, but very important in the areas that we've talked about with respect to oncology and other healthcare issues. So this one's an interesting one. The tremendous field of opportunity.
And one of my old favorites, Neogen, has a terrible looking SSG right now, but I can give you a good reason for it. Neogen, within the last 18 months now, has merged itself with the food service portion of 3M, the Minnesota company. And that means that Neogen has added a company that was about 40% the size of the original Neogen, and now they're in the process of putting that company all together and making it work. The earnings are negative in 2022 because there were all kinds of charges associated with the merger. And on top of that, Neogen had to buy out the entire inventory of the 3M food service and bring it under their umbrella. Neogen does all kinds of food safety and animal safety kinds of products. You find their products marketed in stores like Tractor Safety. Veterinary hospitals have those products, and you'll find them in commercial food establishments because they can be used to test for all kinds of pathogens, and they can also be used to test for all kinds of allergens. School cafeterias, for example, would use a Neogen product that can test for peanut residue on various pieces of equipment. So all in all, we've followed Neogen for many, many years. It's been a great, consistent company with great leadership. It's out of East Lansing, Michigan, home of the Spartans. And we think it has the possibility, once it gets itself situated with this new addition, we think it has the possibility of really beginning to grow again. That uptick in growth on the green line is due to the uptick from the merger. And essentially, we have a new company to start to study beginning in 2022.
Yep, they do seem to be managing the combination quite well. All right, here's one where we're rolling the dice a little bit. This company is probably not a stranger to most of you. Celsius Holdings. They seem to be taking over shelf space and end of aisle displays in grocery stores and various retail outlets. And the premise here is that these guys, could they be an earlier stage monster beverage? In which case they could achieve these operating margins. It's feasible that they could achieve, your 20 to 30% operating margins. And if they do that, they will be quite good. This is not just picking a number out of the air. Look at the earnings numbers so far for the 3 quarters that have reported in this calendar year. So they're on their way. Absent any type of a disaster, they have a good product and are doing pretty well. And that brings us to number 20, Ken. This is a dual slide for the two of us. We talked about how last year those banks didn't do much for us in the best small company portfolio, and we had 3 financial companies out of 12. So we maybe got carried away a little bit, but we decided we've just got 1 bank so far out of the 19 that we've mentioned. So maybe it would make sense to have a second. And then also we've got our situation over at Ardelyx, where they have received FDA approval for their kidney dialysis treatment. And the theory is that this is when the FDA rejected them. What happened to the price target for the company? And it's steadily been climbing back. And they are in production in November and moving forward. Interesting situation. What are your big thoughts here, Ken? And we're basically going to ask the audience this one.
Oh, well, I've made it known before that we talk about Ardelyx an awful lot. Maybe not in relation to what it really would be as part of your portfolio. It's a very small player in the biotech area. I know 5 of the 6 banks on the list pretty well. I study them. I would urge us, if we're going to pick one of those banks, to stick with the highest quality banks, and you can see the quality rankings there on the chart. I would not be adverse, Mark, to going back and sticking with the bank that we had from last year, which is Service First Bank. But I also like some of the other banks. You know that I have an affinity to First Financial. I think it's an extremely well-run bank. The numbers aren't as robust, and I really, really like Bank of the Ozarks as well. So we'll leave it up to our audience to tell us what we might we might do on that. In fact, let's run a poll right now,
Yeah,
okay?
on the poll. Tom Lee is there
All right.
because he appeared with Josh Brown on the compound recently, and he basically is trying to make the case that banks have had so much thrown at them over the last year, 2 years, with the weakening economy and interest rates and all that stuff. So he's basically saying that it's probably time to go and consider some accumulation.
Okay, and here's the poll. Would you like us to add Ardelyx to the list, or add another regional bank, or leave the list at 19 just like it is, or do nothing, which I guess if we do nothing also leaves the list just as it is, doesn't it?
Oh, this is going to be a contest and a half. Don't you
We
guys
don't have.
dare! Don't you guys dare tie on this one.
We might. You mean you have to go to 21 then? Is that what you mean, Mark? Okay. We have about 3/4 of you voting. It doesn't cost anything to vote, and it just takes a moment. So take your mouse, or if you have a touch screen, touch the one you think you'd like us to do, and we'll see what happens. We're up to 80% voting. I'm going to kind of count to 10 because we would like to get the roundtable started relatively on time here. So let's close the poll, and let's share the results. And Mark, they proved me wrong. Okay, they would like to put Ardelyx into the portfolio. So
Sneak Ardelyx in there. Excellent.
we're gonna sneak it in and see how it does, folks. Okay, I will announce at this time that Mark's Ardelyx dominated portfolio in the Mid-Michigan contest that just ended on October 31st came in first in our contest this year. So that's not a place that Mark is used to holding in our contest, but he is sitting in first place with a portfolio that was dominated by Ardelyx. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
here's the companies matching up with their numbers, so you can grab that from the notes if you want to dig in a little bit deeper. And with that, we shall launch. All right, so let's go ahead and take a short break while we switch presentations here and switch to our traditional roundtable. I don't know if we have any